Okay, this is part 2 of the Pythagorean theorem. Sorry I had to cut that off, but little technical difficulty. We are going to do 2D, which is find the length of the missing length of the triangle, and we are going to label our hypotenuse, which is opposite our right angle. So that, oopsie, I can't spell today. That's my hypotenuse. Well, I'm having a hard time today. Hypotenuse. And then we have leg, we'll call it A and B, but they've labeled it Y, which is fine. We know now that it's leg squared plus leg squared equals hypotenuse squared. So we're going to do 1.2 squared plus, we'll call it Y squared because they did, that's my other leg, equals 1.3 squared. So my unknown is one of my little legs. Okay, 1.2 squared you should know is 1.44 plus Y squared equals 1 and 61. 1.69. Okay, we are going to subtract the 1/4400ths from both sides. Those cross off. We get y squared equals 0.25. We're going to go ahead and take the square root, and we get y equals 0.5 meters. And that is the length of one of my little legs, which makes sense because it is smaller than my hypotenuse. Oopsie, you can see it there. Okay, last problem, we're going to wrap it up. Turn to page 54, and we are going to do one word problem. Okay, and let's think this through. So, you are playing capture the flag. You are 50 yards north and 20 yards east of your team's base. The other team's base is 80 yards north and 60 yards east of your base. How far are you from the other team's base? Well, we know that this is south, north, west, east. So let's just start at the origin and let's count out 50 yards north. That's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. And then we're 20 yards east. Okay, so let's put that's where you are. So we're just going to label that you. And then it says the other team's base, let's start at the origin is 80 yards north and 60 yards east. So we're going to go east and we're going to go with the 60. We're going to be right here. So that's where the other team. And we want to know the distance between you and the other team's base. Okay, well, that's going to be really hard, okay, until we find something called the distance formula, which we'll talk about later. That's going to be hard to measure, okay? But we should be able to recognize that if you draw a straight line this way and a straight line this way, we have just formed a right triangle. Okay, we've just made a right triangle. And we know that if this is the hypotenuse opposite the right angle, there's my hypotenuse, and that's actually what we're trying to find, the distance from you to the other team's base, we can easily measure our horizontal and vertical lengths, right? If we go from here to here, we're 10, 20, 30, we're 40 yards. And here we're 10, 20, we're 30 yards. Well, gosh, now we have 40 yards, we have 30 yards for our two legs. We could use the Pythagorean theorem to find this distance from you to the other team's base. Because again, we can find our horizontal and vertical distances. We just have to count how far over we are. They're just straight across. But that diagonal is harder. So let's use the Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Okay, we'll call this my leg A, and that's 40 squared, plus my other leg, which is 30, and we're going to square it. And we don't know what our hypotenuse is or our distance between the 2 points, so we're going to just leave that as our unknown. 40 squared is 1600. 30 squared is 900 equals my hypotenuse squared. We had 1600 and 900, we get what? 2500 equals C squared. And again, I always put my variable first. Variable equals my answer. The inverse operation of squaring something is taking the square root. So I'm going to get C equals 50 yards. So I know how far are you from the other team's base? I am 50 yards. This hypotenuse is 50 yards. And there's your final answer. Okay, I think that wraps it up for today. Thank you.